All right. We're going to call the Wednesday, April 26th Board of Ed meeting to order at 6:35 and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we move into public comment, we wanted to add an agenda item.
I'd like to make a motion to add vote for CBA for paraprofessional custodian contract as agenda item number 10.
Second,
I second that.
and any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstained.
I'd also like to add an agenda item, if that's possible.
Okay,
Could we add non-lapsing account?
we can, but I don't think we have it with us. We can add it.
Or just a general discussion of kind of going forward?
Okay,
I don't know. Yeah, or I'd almost rather add it. Could we do it before the ground study?
can we do it after the ground
Okay.
study?
Sure, that's fine.
Add it as 5B.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay, do we have any public comment this evening? All right, not seeing any, we can move to the superintendent's report.
Okay, good evening. A couple items I'd like to mention. Recently, Allison Reyes, assistant principal at Wheeler, and I attended a school security workshop. It was a nice location, Westerly Yacht Club. Beautiful view. The Secret Service put it on. It was really interesting information. They presented us a couple of studies on school incidents, actual incidents and planned incidents. And we may have more information for you at some point regarding what we learned. But it was really interesting, and we can share more later. But just to tell you, I believe we are totally heading down the right path by hiring a social worker and also creating an alternative education program. So we ensure that every kid has a sense of belonging in North Stonington. I think that that's vital. So I'm pleased that I think we're heading in the right direction. Also, another topic, we have submitted our application for the New England Association of Schools and Colleges District Accreditation. And we have a district candidacy visit on May 16th. There'll be a couple representatives from the organization here visiting for the whole day. And to determine if we are a viable candidate for that. I'll tell you, spoiler alert, we are a viable candidate. We're an excellent candidate, actually. And we're in good shape to be the first district in Connecticut to go through this process. At the beginning of the year, I gave everybody basketball, and I've scheduled a couple of Zoom meetings to do some follow through with people that want to come. So I hope that some people will come to the Wednesday, May 17th meeting called I Took This Throw to share what they did, what they tried differently, how it went. It's at 3:30. And then the next meeting, May 31st, also Wednesday at 3:30, called My Next Throw. And that's one to kind of brainstorm and share ideas and plan about innovative instruction for next year. Also, we now have out a RFP, a request for proposals for a maintenance shed that got posted today. and hopefully we'll get some bids for that. And lastly, we have submitted the security grant. That is a reimbursable grant, and we had talked about maybe using some non-lapsing funds for parts of that. And we included in there some coating for some windows that don't have it, some fencing for elementary school playground, cameras, reception windows in the vestibules, and bollards to protect the buildings from vehicles driving into them. So that's what we put in the grant. So we're excited to have gotten that done. And the other things I mentioned, I think there's a lot to be happy about. And of course, you know about Mrs. St. Germain and how that is a real nice feel good for the whole district and community that she is the Connecticut High School Principal of the Year for 2023. It's really a big deal. And there'll be lots of recognition for her in the fall coming up. But yeah, it's really just awesome. I know the students will probably talk more about some student things, and sports are well underway and all of that. And that's it. That's what I have. Any questions?
Thanks, Troy.
Had a quick question, if possible. Yeah, I noticed that the new rec facility had some, I'm just making a comment or suggestion or whatever else, but they had some sheds outside on the right side of the firehouse. Is that something that could be moved and repurposed, or they're tough shape and you had something better in mind or something? I'm just, again, throwing it out there for a thought.
Those are empty sheds, Alex?
I have no idea. I just noticed there's a couple out there, but they have the whole firehouse now. Are they storing everything in there, or they put everything in the sheds, or, it's, as I say, it's an opportunity potentially.
I'll reach out to Bob and ask about that.
Sure. It may not even be movable, but why not even just chase it down, I guess.
I'll give him a call on that and see where he's at with those. Any other questions? I just have a couple of quick things. Our budget's moving forward. So there's a town meeting on May 1st. I believe the meeting is at 7 o'clock. It'll be here. I am out of town, so Alex, will you be in town on Monday?
Yes, I'm on travel on Thursday next week, but Monday I should be in town.
Okay, so if you could, would you be able to represent the board?
Yeah, I don't see why not. If there's any problem, I'll let you know.
Okay, that would be great. And Troy, you'll be there, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
right?
I will.
Okay. And then I think we want to talk about scheduling a Board of Ed workshop either towards the end of June or into July. You guys want to talk about that now? Look at your calendars. Maybe for our July meeting, we could make that the workshop. I believe our July meeting is. We have two meetings scheduled in July, the 12th and the 26th. I think if we could maybe think about just doing one. And maybe the 12th. Does that work for
I'll
you?
be out of town on the 12th.
Okay. Anybody else have a conflict with that date? How about the 26th?
I mean, I will be gone at some point in July. We usually are gone in Iowa for 2 weeks. I don't know when that is at this point. So, I mean, I think probably the 26th would be the better play for me because it's more likely that we would go at the beginning of July, but.
So let's tentatively put it on the calendar for July 26th. It's a regular scheduled meeting and we will make that a workshop. Let's leave it for now. Depending on what comes up, we can always cancel it. Yeah, it would still be just the Wednesday night. And then the other thing is on the calendar for June is we have 2 meetings in June, and Troy and I talked about maybe just and I don't want to cancel the 21st yet, but that is tentatively graduation. So we would maybe be looking at just having our regular meeting on June 7th. Okay, so I haven't, we won't cancel the other one yet, but I would think that would be what would make the most sense. The birthday, I'm sorry, Madison. And that's really all I have to report right now. We'll be discussing the contract and everything later, so. we'll go from there. And that takes us up to student ambassadors report, the good stuff.
All right, so for the Wheeler High School and Middle School, like Mr. Hopkins said, the NEASC application has been submitted. The fourth quarter has also arrived, so seniors are working very hard on capstone projects. Pathway students have also completed 60 hours of internships and have also earned around half a credit. So work study students have also completed well over 30 hours of work study time this year. There's also lots of end of the year activities that will be coming up. Miss St. Germain will add them each week to her weekly email, and some highlights to share out could include on 4/27, the Wheeler Annual Art Show in the Media Center and the Commons at 6 p.m. And then May 12th to May 14th, we have the Wheeler Drama, which is a Little Mermaid this year. And then May 22nd, the chorus concerts at 6:30 p.m. And this includes all grades from 7 to 12. On May 24th, the Wheeler Wellness Day will be all day. And then on May 24th, we also have the band concert at 6:30 with the middle school and the high school. SBAC and NGSS and AP testing is also beginning this coming month, and all tests are scheduled for students and vary throughout the month of May. We encourage our students to get proper rest and eat a healthy breakfast on their testing days, and we are very proud of our students' successes, and we ask them just to make their best efforts. National Decision Day is May 1st, so for students choosing to enter college or post-graduation. Seniors are also posting their acceptances to schools they like, such as UMass Amherst, WPI, UConn, and New England Tech, and many other colleges and universities. If you follow Instagram Wheeler Decisions 2023, you can keep up with all the exciting news. We will also be posting students who are entering the workforce or military. So spring sports are also underway. Our co-op offerings continue with the co-op boys lacrosse and then the tennis at St. B's and our outdoor track at Griswold. The ECC diversity meeting in May is to plan next year's initiatives and review this year's accomplishments. So a small group presented in March in the CAS Leadership Conference, and it was a successful presentation. And the group looks forward to continuing their important work next year. And then for school improvement work, the end of the year means that Wheeler admin begins to gather data and in order to support student learning and climate. Surveys will go home as usual to parents, staff, and to students who are surveyed every other year about Wheeler experience. Our winter athletic survey is also wrapping up, and we will be doing our spring one in late June. Please take the time to fill out these surveys as they are a valuable part of our school improvement plan.
So now on to elementary schools. So the Willy Wonka Junior play happened and was very well attended and ended up having 2 full houses. And Mrs. Gonzalez did a great job, and there were 80 kids that were able to participate during that play. So that was a great amount. Third grade worked with Carol Gwen to put on a performance on the history of Connecticut, which was funded by the PTO and an anonymous donor. So those went well. Third grade also created a wax museum. And so they were able to make autobiographies about famous people, and they dressed up like them. And then in the gym, they were asked questions about that person and who they were dressed up as. And then in 5th grade, they are still participating in the EV program. And this week they worked on pipe fitting, so they got to make periscopes. 6th grade went on a field trip for Earth Day. They went to a farm, and they also played some frisbee golf. So they got other field trips coming up soon as well. And then the Day of Awesomeness is coming Friday. And it's a reward they get for the PTO fundraisers in the beginning of the year because they raise a ton of money for the PTO. So it's a day with rewards like free slushies and obstacle courses and like big inflatables. So that's pretty cool. Everyone is also getting ready for the SBAC testing, which is on May 8th. And the ELA curriculum team met last month. They went over and unpacked the standards for each grade level and continued learning about the new curriculum.
Great, thank you. Do you guys have any questions for John or Madison?
I would just like to add a big thank you to the PTO for that third grade play, because that was a lot of fun. The kids really enjoyed it. They learned a ton, and we're talking about it for a ton.
All right, anything else on that? All right, so that moves us into the ground study report. That was sent out by email. Did everybody have a chance to open their email and see that? Things on it here. Hold on a second.
Is that going to be something that they'll do a presentation on, or should we just digest the report and then,
We didn't
ask
ask them to
questions?
do a presentation. I think it's really pretty thorough. If you read through it, there's a really good description of what they saw and then the detail of what they gave 2 different scenarios on each field of what we should look at. I don't know that unless you guys want them to report out, I don't know that we'd need them to.
Is there priority on what fields we want to do first?
Well,
Or
yeah, that's what we need to talk about. Did you have a chance to see the report, Alex?
I brushed through it really quickly. I didn't have a lot of time today, but it was expensive, $500,000 for at least to get a lot of the, depending on what option you went with.
Right. So, I mean, so I think the overall picture is that we are in desperate need of doing something with our fields. I'm really happy that we didn't just go ahead and approve irrigation without addressing what's going on with the fields first. They've been left into some disrepair for quite some time. So I do personally feel that we need to move on doing something with those fields, and we have an account we can start looking at for that. There's a couple of options. Personally, I think we're going to have to look towards the less expensive option on each one.
Mhm.
And this company has offered to put the RFP together for us. So is that correct, Troy?
Yeah, actually, we've already had them. We have money in the regular budget for some grounds work. So we've actually have them doing some of the work already. So it might,
What work are they doing already? I mean, because this is like, to me, very extensive. So like,
no.
Or
it's
how
just
much
like-
is that line item for is
It-
actually
it's
my
not,
question.
they're not like doing the whole surface rehabilitation or anything. They're doing the regular annual work that we normally would have done, like
Oh.
aeration,
yeah,
nutrients,
Right.
that type of thing, the regular annual maintenance that we do every year that we budget in the regular Board of Ed budget. So, what I would propose is that we have Bill Merrill come to the next meeting, because he's been working with this company specifically. He knows exactly what they have done to what field. And he could explain what that is.
Mhm.
It might not be a bad idea to even have, this company come and
and what
tell
about
us.
Randy? How hands-on is he with this as the facilities
He's very
director?
hands-on with it. So that actually the two of them could
Right.
co-present this or just be here next time to, talk. it
Yeah,
through.
in my mind, it's a big investment, so that's why it'd be nice to, even if they go on Zoom or something, just to kind of make sure there's no questions that are kind of left on the table. But yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, and if we decide to move forward with whatever part of it, we would have to RFP that. This wouldn't be the
Right.
company that would be doing that work, not necessarily the company that would be doing the work. One thing I thought was really interesting that I'd be curious to know Randy's thoughts on was the field maintenance frequency chart. It really laid out nicely exactly how often we should be mowing, when we should be mowing, the lining, all of that. I thought was really, if we get irrigation, how often we should be irrigating. So I don't know if we have anything like this currently, but I'd be curious to know if Randy's using something like this.
And I think when you start to look at that field maintenance chart, you start to see how many times they're actually saying we should be mowing those fields to keep the grass at the proper length. And I think, I think Troy said that they're doing it like maybe once a week in season, and they're actually saying you should be doing it twice a week in season for certain fields, which means if you're buying, as we, propose to buy the extra lawnmower, that now cuts down on our overall costs for that upkeep as well.
And also just to help our custodians figure out their timing and when they need to be doing it
Right.
as well. So I'm wondering kind of what you guys want to do for next steps. I looked at the recommended option 1 for soccer and basketball or baseball, softball with irrigation is going to run us middle ground on their kind of really general quote about $330,000. Not talking about middle school yet.
Oh, okay, yeah, because you have to take out the 250 for middle school, because I had.
Yeah, I didn't put the middle school in because we obviously can't do all of it. And I think our professional fields are where we want to focus first.
Right.
That's where kind of our conversations have been in the last few years.
I
So-
think we also have to really take into account the idea that these fields will be down for 3 to 6 months. And so
Minimum.
in terms of the timing of this, it needs, I feel like we need Ellen here to
Yeah.
discuss with us how this could even possibly work on a timeline before, I mean, it's one of those things where if our soccer field can't go down in the spring because we have a girls lacrosse team, our soccer field
Right.
can't go down in the fall because we have 2 soccer teams, we have Doka playing all the time, we have all of these things going on. And we need to figure out where we can find 3 to 6 months where they can do something where they can actually grow grass, because it's gonna have to
Right.
be early or late. It can't be in
Give
the
you
summer.
summer.
So I think we have an interesting potential opportunity with this side of the street. So the company that took down the middle school wing is preparing to grade and hydro seed out here. And that was the plan, to do that and just leave it like that until a determination is made of what to do. So I think it's a bit of a time crunch. But if we start having the conversation, what are the measurements we need? What's the additional cost? Do we ask to have this hydroseeded and lined, and we are prepared to send our sports over here while that's happening? So at least the soccer and the lacrosse field, although I think it probably, if we started it over the summer, it
But
would be up.
My concern is actually the actual level and levelness of the field over here.
Well, I
because-
think that's what we'd have to look at. We'd have to have, there would be an additional cost, I think,
Right,
to prepare it for a playing field. But if the hydro seeding is already going to be done, is it?
My
an
only
opportunity?
concern, Stephanie, would just be loud and clear at the finance meeting. I heard a lot of people, the negativity was often about this side of the street.
right.
For sure, it's a
And
triggering issue.
The school use of this side of the street.
Right.
And so I don't want to step in it by saying, hey, we know we offered this space as something that there would be a town meeting where everyone's going to talk about and come up, this community forum. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, just kidding. The school's going to take it over for.
So
a
there
year.
still is going to be that community forum. It looks like that's going to be in mid-June, that we're going to hold that the same day as the POCD visioning meeting. And that grass isn't in any way permanent. It just is something that they agreed to do, and that, sorry, that we would have, not dirt over there until we decide what we're going to do with it. So I agree with you. I think that there were maybe some negative feelings about it, but perhaps it's something we want to explore as a fiscally responsible option, because you're right, where are we going to put those kids? We don't have a ton of fields.
Well, I think what we need to do is, as a board, decide what we want to invest in doing this. And then the project will be handled by the superintendent, the facilities director, the athletic director. She knows well how she can redo her scheduling, what does she use with the rec fields for now? I don't want us to get into the weeds of
But I don't want to
saying-
miss the opportunity. So Ellen may not know what's happening over here.
No, I understand that. And
So
we
I
would
just wanna
definitely want
put
to
it
let
out
her
there
know
so We
that.
can explore all of the options to make sure that our kids aren't being relocated to, say, Groton for home games.
Right,
I think it's important to keep our kids at home here in North Stonington.
right. And we do have the rec fields as well.
They're,
They're not good.
We
No.
do.
we don't-
We
Not-
sure
not for
do.
they are there.
They are there.
Uh,
Their
I-
fields.
I guess my point in stating that time aspect of things is that I think that we're gonna look at this in a rollout as opposed to, hey, we're gonna do all of the fields this year. I think it may be more of a, because I know at some point they had a soccer field in the outfields of the baseball and softball field.
Right.
That's the
So-
middle school field, right?
Right.
Right, but if we can fit the field there and we do the soccer field in the fall, but move soccer games over there to begin with, and then in the spring, we can rotate it out, or in the following year, we can rotate that out in some way, I guess.
Right.
Right, and I think the experts on this will know that and will understand that. They realize it's a being used facility. They know the timelines. What we would need to get is an RFP. We'd need to get an understanding of where we want to move forward. How much do we want to allocate towards this? And they would propose to us the time frame and how that would look. And you're right, it would have to be phased. They're not just gonna come in and rip up every field we have. They're gonna phase it, and it's not gonna happen in 3 months. It's probably gonna, possibly be a 2-year process to get it done and get it to where it needs to be. But I do think it's urgent. I think we need to have it done. I like the fact that we actually have the money to do this, to do it well. Instead of kind of picking and choosing small little things in this non-lapsing account, this can really give us some big impact for our school. I mean, when you sit at the fields and you're watching the games and people are here from other towns, it's embarrassing, to be perfectly honest, at what our fields look like compared to some other schools.
So I guess to start the conversation about priority, I would be interested in absolutely moving forward and making a plan to do all of it, although that middle school field, that would be sort of my lowest priority, and it might not be that option, I think, at the end, but I would love to see us create, maybe we can't do it all in 1 year, but to create a plan. And in terms of priority, I would like to see the soccer/lacrosse field first, because I think it impacts the most students, followed by the baseball, softball field. And I think we should invest in the irrigation as well, because I think that it doesn't make sense to pay all of that money for a field that we could lose ground on if we're not taking care of it appropriately. And I agree with you, Christine. I think we have to do it. And I think we have to invest in this part of our school. I think we owe it to the kids.
Absolutely. I mean, we built a beautiful facility, but we don't have the fields to back it up.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we want to consider just at least moving forward with getting the RFPs at this point. And once we have that, we have a better idea of the cost factors. And do those RFPs will usually include some timelines in them and everything else, correct? Is that usually how that works, Troy? Do you know?
Do
We
do
usually
we,
ask for that.
Okay.
do we
Yeah,
want it
we have to
across
be
the board,
specific
or do we
about
want
what
it just for the soccer field to begin with?
I'd like to see it for all the fields.
I think you need it for all the fields because you are using the outfields of baseball and softball for soccer fields as well, and practice areas and things like that. And that does a number on those fields. So I think if you're going to start to redo, the soccer field for soccer lacrosse, you have to look at those other facilities as well, or else you're going to completely destroy them, and you're going to have far more problems now, or far more problems in the future.
Yeah, I'd like to also add that if there's a way of taking the lacrosse away from the soccer field, if there's another opportunity, then I'd like to at least ask Ellen if that's possible, and then maybe plan around that. Because that does chew up some of the soccer field.
To have lacrosse permanently played elsewhere?
Somewhere else on the property, right?
Okay.
And if they can't, they can't, but we do have that upper field behind the benches potentially. So that's why it'd be nice, I think someone mentioned about Ellen weighing in, so I think that'd be a great idea also.
Alex, I had asked Ellen at one point about that upper field area, and she said that that's the septic and that there's pipes up there, so they can't use that behind the soccer field space up there.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about the irrigation? I'll admit that I didn't really study this in full depth, but based on some of the prices that we had gotten and the discussion we had last time about this, I'm wondering if there was any discussion about the irrigation or the water that's underneath there that's all ready to go. Did you see that in the report?
Didn't see that, no.
Okay,
I
so
think it mentioned the water source.
But this cost of irrigation was significantly low.
that's why I'm asking, because it was much lower than what we were originally talking about. But I want to know if they looked at it, like, is it in good condition? Is it going to be a surprise? Like what? And I couldn't find anything about it.
What was the original number that we had? I thought it was like
95 was the original for just the soccer field, and this
Per
was
field.
35. wasn't it?
Yeah, per field. It was over 90.
it was like 35, 55, 45 for the different fields. I can't remember which one was which, but I think
And we hadn't redone those numbers in quite some time. We were basing that on quite a few years back. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought it was Gone up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would have
right.
thought they would have gone up, but I'd also like to see what they thought the condition of that is in.
Yeah, I don't think they need to dig up the fields like we thought about in the past. I think this is a little bit more of somehow locally putting pipes in or whatever. So I think things have changed from a,
So not even, maybe not even using it at all.
yeah, but yeah, I agree. I thought the price was a lot lower than I remember in the past.
Well, and from what I've heard, the baseball field does not need irrigation, because if there's any issue at the baseball field, it's that it's too wet too much of the time.
Yeah, no, they need to put in a better drainage for what's going on at the baseball field. They're still going to need to irrigate the new plantings and the grass and what's there on a regular basis.
And if you're putting the irrigation in, it's smart to put a sprinkler system in that's attached to it for those
Yeah.
fields to keep the home plate areas from completely like washing out or being dug out. You need to keep moisture in the hill, the circle, and behind and around the plate areas of those fields, or else kids that dig in, it just turns it into a sandbox, and they can never actually keep it flat or smooth for play.
Yeah, I guess I would just like to see a little more detail on that irrigation system line. Cause they just say, we recommend we do it, but like, what does that mean?
Right, we'll find out where the water source comes from on that.
Yeah.
And again, in the RFP, we would have more detail on that as
Okay,
well.
so the RFP would also include that. Do
Yes.
we do it as one unit or
The RFP,
or I guess how would we, because we talked about maybe doing separate fields, but we would ask for that irrigation to be part of that, right?
I believe so. I think,
Okay.
I think we should be in agreement on that, right?
Yeah.
So I would make a motion at this point, except that my only curiosity that I just want to double check on, because I remember at some point we were talking about asking for RFPs, and we're told that people were annoyed if we asked for RFPs and didn't follow through with it or something. We had a company, this was a year ago, when there was something coming through and we wanted to just get an idea of the cost of something. And I think
that was a perception under the old
Okay.
administration.
then in that case, I would like to make a motion that we move forward on an RFP for the lesser of the two options on the set of fields and irrigation.
I second.
All right, further discussion? All right, I just think it's super exciting. If we can make this happen, it would be really great. So, yeah, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Great.
I guess one thing I would add is when they do the RFP is what do we do with the track, if anything? So it's not just a field thing, but how does the track get impacted by that, I guess?
All right, I think there was some mention in here about it, but I'll add that for the RFP piece. So for the RFP, what I have written down right now is the irrigation source. Are we looking at the old well? What is more detail on what that irrigation looks like? What would happen with the track? And then separate from the RFP, I just have a note here about possibility of relocating lacrosse.
Hmm.
from the Soccer field.
Do we have any interest in considering turf? I have no idea what the cost of that would be.
No. I mean, of course, we would love to, but
I-
it's
When we're considering these numbers,
it's
suddenly they
way-
don't seem.
Actually, when you are considering those numbers, I mean, if you were to completely recondition and like start from zero on,
And then have the care and the
Right.
upkeep and all of those pieces, I mean, I think we would get a turf field for under $500,000.
no,
Okay.
Mm-mm.
no.
No, I
you-
don't think so.
Looked at it in the
minimum
past.
3/4. I think Griswold just did theirs up at the football field, and that's $1 million project.
Yeah, and it's only one field, not the rest of the ones. Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally with Ted on that. I'd love to get a turf field, but I just think it's just out of our budget range, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll get that
We'll
when
put
we
it in
get
the
that
Dolphins bubble.
when we get the bubble, yeah. When we get the bubble, we will have the turf. Anything you want to add to that, Troy? At this point?
No, I'm good.
Yeah? You're okay with this? Are you
Yeah,
comfortable
No,
with
I
it?
think it's fine. I do think like I think people talked about, I think the priority is the sporting areas, the softball, baseball field, and then the soccer lacrosse field.
What is the middle school?
I think
field?
we have to be really cautious that we actually get what we hope to get out of spending all this money. I don't want to regret it. So I think it really would be helpful to whoever bids on this project to get some references, to get some samples of projects that they've done. Maybe talk to people who they did work for and how it's going. And then I think it's a great idea having the maintenance schedule, like the mowing and all that. And I think we've got to take a hard look at that to see, can we realistically maintain that schedule with our current plan of having our custodial maintenance department pick that up? Or, we got to plan carefully. So we spend less money, we get what we hope.
I can tell you that most schools that have very nice facilities, they're not out there mowing it 8 times a month during the season. They're not. So I mean, I think that's a ideal world with great irrigation and everything's going according to plan. I think if you're still getting out there the once a week or or 2 times every like 2.5 weeks, I think you're gonna be in fine shape.
Yeah, I'd also like to say, like, I'm supportive of this project, but I'm worried about the long-term maintenance and keeping up with it and whether things get cut and how we go further to make sure that we don't have to do this again. Cause we kind of run into this where we kind of invest and then, we lose funding or whatever, it sort of peters out. So with such a big investment, making sure we can really sustainably keep this going.
And the one thing is when you start to look at redoing these fields, I know when I was reading the study, they were talking about the lippage on the infield, the skinned areas of the fields, whether it's from the grass to the dirt, back out to the outfield grass, or in the infield to the outfield grass, that lip that occurs, you do have to actually maintain that every couple of years. And you do need facilities individuals who know how to actually grade the field before, after every game or, all the time, because you have to be able to pull that dirt away so you're not pushing it into the outfield, which creates that drop off, which creates a hazard for players going back. I've seen kids break a wrist going back on a ball because they've hit that lip and it's dropped off significantly and they've just gone down. So I think making sure that our facility people also know how to maintain those fields appropriately.
Yeah, part of the RFP probably should have something on the recurring maintenance. And I think I agree with you guys that it's nice to kind of put a lot of money in to get the fields to be perfect, but if it's going to cost $100,000 a year to maintain it or whatever, it'd be nice to have at least a plan as part of the RFP and then an understanding of what those costs are to keep it as nice as we hopefully it will be.
I do think in the report, I remember reading annual cost estimated in there. But Brian, I think you're right. It's interesting to think about now that our facilities staff is sort of charged with handling this, which is a big responsibility. Is there like professional development that we can send them to, like about field maintenance? I don't know how it works in that
Maybe,
particular.
maybe. It's kind of been learn as you go and as needed at this point. Because, we've had a change of personnel in the middle of the year and it's like, all right, hey, doing the lawn now.
Maybe something we want to think about in the future. when we
Yeah,
do
I
this.
think it's
And definitely having Randy in on these discussions moving forward so that I'm sure he has a perspective on this and hopefully an understanding of what needs to be done. And, would we have to hire it out, per season, that kind of a thing, instead of maybe the old way of having a full-time employee? Do we have a line item for maintenance of the fields where we hire it out as needed during the season, that kind of a thing?
Yeah, and thanks, Stephanie, for pointing that out. Yeah, they do mention like 15,000, I think, for for the baseball, softball, and then another 10 for the soccer. So, and I apologize, I don't remember what our budget is right now. For
But that's what, about
maintenance.
25,000 a year for field maintenance.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. 25,000.
Okay, so, yeah, if that's what they're predicting, then we're on target. But I just want to make sure we know those costs going
Right.
forward.
Is it when we get the RFPs, let's say we get 4 or 5 and we narrow it down to 2 or 3, are we able to have them come in and do a presentation with their RFP and then have us be able to ask questions and all that kind of things, or is RFP private? Like, I don't really understand that piece of the process.
we
I think
do-
it depends on how we publicize it.
Right.
I think we can do what we want, yeah, and just be upfront with it. But
Because I would like a presentation from each one before we go forward, so we could ask some of these questions, and I think we'd get a really good feel of what kind of company we're working
Isn't
with.
it, isn't it the amount that they put in is private, but we can actually publicly ask them questions? Is it
I
something along
actually,
those
I
lines?
think that we went through this with the grounds RFP.
Yeah,
And our particular policy talks about once we have that meeting, so right, it's private until we have that meeting and then they're open unless we can determine that there is a greater benefit to us for keeping them closed. I don't imagine that's the case in this particular instance, but Christine, I love your idea of us being able to say, okay, here are our questions.
Right, and I would like it to be in public. I mean, I think that would show that we did our due diligence. This is a big amount of money and it's a big project, so I would like as much communication with the public, knowing we're doing this, what we're looking at, hearing what we're hearing. You know, and hopefully being able to do it in open session. So we'll look into how that gets done properly. I would like to maybe task the communications committee with taking a look at making sure we do that. Is that okay to ask that? Okay.
you know, just going along the same lines, we might want to consider having the people that did the study that we paid them to do come in and do a little presentation for us about what this means, what work does it require, and then we could still be getting the RFPs at the same time, but maybe have them come in and just present to us so we fully understand what this is.
And I think that's kind of what Alex was asking at the beginning
Are
too.
we, once we send out RFPs, Troy, if they're RFPing, I'm not sure that we can have them
Okay,
come in and
so-
talk to us
so-
about it
But maybe we do it, have them come talk to us before we do the
before we
RFP.
send it out.
And then they might not even bid, you know, but we paid them to do this study. It might make sense for them to come and kind of like present it to us in some way, so we fully understand what they found and what the recommendations are. And we can all read it independently and all that, but our own, everybody's interpretation could be a little bit different and expectations could be different. But if they then present it, I think we might all be closer on the same page about what to expect.
That would be great. And that's kind of what you were asking, Alex, right? Is if we could get them to present this.
Yep.
Answer questions.
Yep.
Could we try to get them here for our next meeting?
We will try. Yeah.
All right. I'd like to keep moving forward, and
Yeah.
especially as the season ends, if we could look at starting to move forward on some of this work. All right, anything else on the grounds? That takes us over to the non-lapsing account. We wanted to have some discussion on that.
So, I mean, now we're kind of talking about a big expenditure with this. But I think we still have some needs that really need to be addressed, and I want to make sure that we don't forget about them, kind of. And maybe we could act on a few of them that are low price items, such as drama over in elementary school. And I just don't want to take it off the
And,
table.
and what did we need for the drama over at the
Sna-
elementary school?
The lights, it was
It
like
was, it was the lights that
the email.
Kelly had sent us an email that had laid out a request for kind of a basic setup to be able to do lighting.
Never saw that.
I want to say it came, was it like 3,300 at the end?
Mm.
I meant to write
wasn't
it down
much.
before I came today. It was a very small amount compared to what I thought it would be. To be honest,
Did you
I
see
thought,
that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, okay, I have it here. The email came like April 6th. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it
I
up.
know
Oh,
there was some discussion about microphones.
20, yeah, 2004.
Yeah, but I don't remember anybody submitting something though. Yeah. Is that an email to the Board of Ed?
it was a shopping cart from Phillips Hue. 280471 was what she had asked for in terms of a set of different
Did that
lighting
go,
pieces.
was Rob on that email or was I on the email?
Hold on.
Or-
She,
It was on
she
4/6.
BCC'd everybody, so I don't know who was on the.
Right.
email.
It was from April 6th, though.
So I think that we want to make sure we're following the right process with that. If she has a request for that, it should be going to Rob, and Rob should be bringing that request to Troy, and Troy should be bringing that request to us.
Yeah, in fact, I just met with the principals today again, and we've already discussed it about spending, end of the year spending, if we do have some money to spend. And the principals are collecting information from their staff about what would they either need or like to have, so that then with my administrative team, we can prioritize what those items may be and buy it out of Board of Ed money this year. So something like the lighting, that would be a priority item, probably. Then you wouldn't have to spend non-lapsing on it. If we have money at the it looks like we have some money to spend, buy a few of those things. So then it saves you non-lapsing money.
No, which I think is wonderful. I think the thing was, though, we had actually approved this money at some point, and then it had gotten lost in the process, and then it was, no, we don't need the lights anymore. So we had approved this money for lights from non-lapsing in the past. And
That's
then
my recollection as well.
Yeah, there was definitely not a breach in
Can I,
process.
can I jump in? Those were lights for the middle high school. We,
Yeah, I
we
don't-
thought we had an issue, but Randy went in and did an assessment and was able to fix the existing lights. So that might have been the middle high school.
Well, and I think what happened was that it was mistakenly reported to us as being the elementary school. And then what had actually happened at the elementary school was just that they had fixed the switches with the motion sensor for the overhead lights, but they didn't have any other lights. And so we had approved putting, it may not have even been, we approved specific money. I think we approved or at least discussed the idea of wanting to put in a boom across the top so we could add lights at the elementary school. And then we had been told they didn't need them anymore, and it kind of went off the table.
Yeah, can I jump in?
Yes.
It's Rob. Yeah, so I think that what had happened was, and I think this was again before my time, but way back when the move happened, there were lights that were part of the elementary school that for some reason didn't make it in the move. So we did have that boom put up, that's been done. And then there had been some talk about using non-lapsing to purchase those lights that had come in. It was a while back. And I know Kelly didn't know what we needed. So there was a parent who was helping her out. I believe it was Miss Margaret Leonard, who said these are kind of the things that you need. And then she forwarded that on, I believe, to what we thought was the board, because we thought this was something they were going to investigate under non-lapsing.
That was my understanding as well, Rob.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I just don't see in my list of things that we've voted on and approved anything about those lights. So I apologize. I kind of feel like I'm not on the same page with that. I remember the discussion about the boom, and then it was also part of like, is it part of the hardware for the curtain? Do we put the boom on the thing? But I don't remember us approving that.
And we may not have, Christine, because I believe what happened was the report came back to us
that we
saying
didn't need it.
we didn't need it.
Right.
But I think that was
So
incorrect information.
So I think, and I'm in agreement with you, Jamie, that there are some things that we probably need to purchase. I do think because we're coming to year end, we need to have a really good idea of where our budget is right now and what we're trending for. Troy's working with his admins on what their needs are. Before we decide what should we buy out of non-lapsing, we need to take a look at what the schools saying their needs are right now. And then if we're unable to fund those, let's take a look at what's in non-lapsing and move forward with getting some of those things funded once we prioritize what we want to do with that. We have a balance of about 440, give or take. This could eat a large sum of that. So I don't want to just start doing to do without it coming directly from Troy and his team saying these are our absolute wants. And then let's figure out how we can make those things happen. Does that seem fair to everyone?
It does, but I also don't want to lose track of the playground, which we've been talking about for a long time in terms of adding those extra pieces that really need to be there for the playground. And coming into summer, that's really the best time for us to be able to do that if we're going to have the playground down. And I guess would there be consideration for playground coming out of end of year budget pieces? Or is that something that we can have a discussion on? Because
Are you talking about the butterfly that we were all kind of excited about, or are
we
you
had
talking
talked
about
about a
other
large-
pieces?
We had talked about a large amount of money being given
Yeah,
that people would be able to spend to buy if we provided that to the people who could purchase things for the playground.
yeah, I think we want to take a step away from a specific piece and maybe it may be more appropriate to say, okay, we have some needs in the pre-K playground. Here's some money, like how can we best fit that? Because prices are going to change, installation, there's some pieces of equipment that may need to be modified because they were improperly installed. Like, so I think kind of looking at it as a package of like what needs to be done. And we've had this discussion many times about a need in the pre-K. And I'm not sure if that would fall within the end of the year conversation.
So, and I agree. I feel like we've kind of gone round and round on that. Do you think, Troy, you can talk to Randy and to Rob and really get an assessment of what's needed over at the pre-K playground?
Sure.
What pieces are not
And I'm happy to
efficient?
help with that as well.
Okay.
Because and the square footage and things like that, what can go, what zones can go and what.
Well, we had a wonderful presentation that was sent out last year, I believe, that included a lot of that space piece and those things. So
Troy, when do you think is the earliest date that you'll know about what we have left?
I think the next meeting in May, the first meeting in May, because Bill will be here and he'll be presenting some financial information and he'll have an idea. I could tell you, estimation right now, if you like, no?
No, I don't,
Okay.
I'm just thinking Christine's probably right about the timing of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because you want to know what you have left.
Plan-
And
So Bill, when we did the purchasing plan, Bill put together a nice timeline. So we spend our money in a timely way and we don't overlap into the summer like happened
Right.
last year. And in the spending plan, it's to do some spending in May if we have money to get some things we need in May. So hopefully they arrive in June. We get the invoice and we pay it before July. So it's no question that it's this year's money, right? So we're really on that. I told the administrators today, I anticipate filling out some purchase order requisitions next week for end of the year spending
so do you
for
think
some priority items.
by the time we meet in 2 weeks, when Bill's here and you think you'll have that projected number, do you think you'll have your list of needs from your admin? Because I think you're right, Jamie.
Yeah.
We need to just say like, okay, so that
So
Bill can start working on
We-
getting those things.
I hope that we would already have ordered some things from the regular Board of Ed budget.
So you'll know like, okay, we
And,
could
and
take
I
these
could
off the
tell you
list
that,
because-
yes, here's the
Yeah.
things we already
Okay.
ordered because we have some money and there were priorities according to the administrators. So we've ordered these things. This is something that we do need that we don't think we have the money for. Yeah, I could give you that kind of report.
Do you think we have time for a field study report and like a significant non-lapsing purchasing discussion at the next meeting?
I think we should make time for it. I
Alright.
feel like we've kind of been budget focused, which it obviously has to be, but
yeah.
I think now we need to start really saying, okay, instead of saying, let's put it to the next, we
Yeah,
need
let's do
to
it.
kind of commit the time and the work to it.
Okay.
I think so. If everybody else
Seems
is in
that
agreement.
feel like,
All right, there we go.
all right.
I
Sounds
mean,
good.
honestly, I think we've been pretty efficient with our meetings lately, so I think if we make those two things our focus of our next meeting, it shouldn't be like a 4-hour ordeal.
Yeah, I think that would be so great.
well,
Yeah.
and a lot of the non-lapsing, I feel like it's repeated discussion. Like we've
Right.
had it. What we need to do is pull the trigger, I guess, and move forward.
We
So-
do, but I think we need to step back and realize we're also considering a very large sum of expense. So we need to maybe, what we thought was priority, maybe go, is it really priority right now? Are the admins and the superintendent saying they're priority? We have to get back to them telling us what's priority, not us deciding what's priority. So keeping in mind a large expense, the fact that we're not going to be funding that non-lapsing the way we have been. We need to almost revisit on that again after they come up with their year-end expenditures and decide, okay, knowing we have this large field report here, are our priorities the same or have they changed? All right, and I understand what you're saying. We've discussed it in the past, but things evolve and change. So we need to always not just do it because we said we were going to do it, but take a second look at it, knowing what's coming with some of these larger items.
And maybe this conversation in 2 weeks will help us tie up those loose ends and get current with what we've.
Right,
sort of
get
moved
those things that have
Let's
just
do
been hanging there, take care of them, if they're still a priority for the admins and our superintendent, and then maybe remake that a more cleaned up list moving forward. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, okay. Anything else on the non-lapsing anything else you wanted to look at, Jamie? All right, and then, Jamie's willing to talk with Rob and Randy and kind of take a look at.
I apologize. I've been putting it off because I've been busy, but I'll connect with you, Troy, and we'll get it done.
All right. So we've got an agenda here somewhere. Here it is. All right, so we're going to move past that. We need to approve the graduation date under new business for June 21st. Yes, great.
Yeah, we hope to graduate, the high school seniors on this date. It's a Wednesday, the middle of the week, June 21st. Immediately following is a, end of the year, celebration event, for the kids. So we hope that they all attend that. And, yeah, is what you would plan for the graduation date. So there's no move to it.
All right, so can we get a motion to approve June 21st as graduation date?
I move to approve June 21st, 2023 is the graduation date for Wheeler High School.
I second that.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain. Great. We had some money left over from the Eagle Scout project and we wanted to go ahead and put a plaque together. We do need that approved so that he can close out the project. Can we get a motion to approve the plaque for the Eagle Scout project?
I make a motion to approve the plaque for the Eagle Scout project for David Levanto.
I second.
Okay, how much was that plaque?
Irma was, we have the extra money, but I don't know the exact cost of the plaque yet. I know Irma had said that she had
It
a
falls within that.
company that she goes, but it will easily be within the $400.
Okay, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, the air quality study discussion. Where did you want to kick that one off?
Yeah, I think it would be probably just wise to have this area, the areas of the building where kids inhabit this building, to just kind of check to make sure that the air, given we just took down an old part of the building, and just to kind of put people's minds at ease. And I want to, kind of see like, what would that cost to just have someone do some air quality testing? I don't think it would be much, but I'd like to check it out and then just do it if it's not that much money, and then we could look at the results and have just like a few, okay, yeah, that's good. We're good to go to open the wood shop, do the alternative education program. Just because I think that there's some people are concerned and it would put people's minds at ease.
I think that's a great compromise moving forward.
Yeah, and I know when we were doing them in the past at the elementary school, we did them about every 3 weeks, something like that. They weren't astronomically expensive. If I recall, they were under a couple $1,000. So I also think, just doing the square footage that we're going to be using, there seems to be a perception that we're going to be using this whole entire area. So if we just air quality test those classrooms that we would be using, that would be great. So thanks for looking
Yeah,
into
so we
that.
can do that.
Any other discussion on that? Does anybody have any comments on that?
No, and we just use regular, I think we could find the money, but it's not that much.
So we would only we would only do the air quality study in the certain space that we'll be using for the alternative ed program? Is that
The
what I'm
wood
hearing?
shop, Where
Excuse me, the wood shop?
where kids would be on a regular basis.
Would it be best just to do the whole area anyway?
We could, we could find.
Well, I'm only asking because, plans change. And what if in 2 years?
Air
you wanna
quality
use this-
changes too, though, and it really, it makes a difference from room to room. So if all of a sudden there's an air quality issue in a space we're not using, they really do isolate it quite a bit. I just trying to remember from the elementary school. I mean, we had to close the music room for a while. We had to close a certain classroom for a while, and then they would reopen it, and then they would, depending
Okay.
on,
So depending on the use, we would just do another air quality.
yeah,
if
you,
down
I
the
think
road
you
need
want to
another
isolate it
space.
to the spaces you're
Okay.
using. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay. Alternative ed program?
Yeah, Allison Mullane has been putting together a little brochure, description of the program. This is very draft, that we're not handing it out or anything, but just so you know, it's here, it started. And so we're gonna have a nice description of the program that people can access. And we are really mirroring it after the schedule of the high school so that kids, depending on the individual needs, could still take classes across the street and then also spend time over here. And it be more of a fluid type program. We're really excited about it. We think it's going to be really valuable. We're going to having, expectations for it and an application to get in, a contract that kids and parents sign to gain entry into the program. So, it's going to be really a formalized, structured program where just part of it is a morning meeting that all the kids would participate in with one of our social workers to get goal setting for the day. I think it's really gonna, as you know, we piloted it with some students this year and it's been really successful, but I think with more structure and more expectations and more formalization, it's gonna really have even a bigger impact on some of our kids that will benefit from this. And we're also looking to add in the vocational piece. We might be able to partner local businesses up with the kids to gain some work experience and some marketable skills. So it's something where the whole administrative team is very excited about because we saw the success it can have just this year. It's actually heartwarming in many ways.
Thank you for putting that together. Will that be posted on our website as well? So
Yeah,
if
it
people
will
wanted some
eventually.
information?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
Christine, I just wanted for minutes purposes, it appears that Alex may have lost his connection. So he may no longer be present in the meeting.
Alex has left the room. All right, thanks Troy for putting that together. I think that'll help answer, clarify for people what that program looks like as well. The transportation study, we had talked about this quite a few times. I'd like to start moving forward with that. My thoughts on that were that I'd like to get 2 people from the board and myself to sit down and start kind of developing the next steps, how we want that to look, who we want involved in that. Obviously, M&J will be a very big piece of that. And start kind of going through how we want to develop that study and all of that. So I'm looking for 2 people to volunteer to help with that.
I'd be willing to volunteer with it.
All right.
Uh,
Brian,
yeah.
Brian and Jamie. All right. So I'll reach out to you guys and we'll set a tentative first first meeting. And then we'll go from there. But I think we need to get the ball rolling on that and, get some community involvement and those kinds of things for this summer. So thank you. Appreciate that. Chet, we have policy review first read.
Yeah, everybody should have received a couple of different things in their packet here. One of them starts off and says parents' rights on the top. This one. There were two updated policies from CABE this quarter that were mandated updates that need new language. And those are both the parents' rights piece and the FERPA guidelines piece that comes after that. So it's 5125 policy. And then 6162.51, which is based on student surveys and other things regarding the requirements of kind of a parent's bill of rights and the idea that parents have the right to opt their kids out of things. There were a couple of different pieces that went through the Connecticut legislature. So one has a B with butterflies and the other one has the CABE policy services in the upper left. But those are both mandated adjustments that we're going to have to make. So just as a first read, to have everybody have these in front of you, Lisa and I will hopefully be meeting between now and the next meeting to be able to come up with recommendations on what we think is the best option out of these, but to give you the opportunity to look at them and give any feedback that you might have on those. The third is actually a bylaw regarding student representatives on the Board of Education, based on the idea that a lot of boards are adding these. CABE decided to come up with a recommended bylaw. It's not required, it's not mandated. We have our own system, so if we choose not to do it, we choose not to do it. However, it's just to give a consideration, again, as a first read, as an idea that this might be something that we would consider moving forward. We, at the moment, we have two 11th graders, correct? So we have two juniors at the same time. A lot of boards are moving to do a junior and a senior as they move forward, which I love the idea that we have two juniors that are going to be with us for, a full year and a half here. But we might want to do that so we're staggering moving forward. But it has some other language in there. Just again, as a first read, I think our goal is to give you the options and the things that we have coming up. Give you the opportunity to look at them, read through them in the 2 weeks we have between meetings at your leisure, and then come back for the second read and talk about them. Some of these, I think most of you don't, it's mandated language changes. You're not super concerned, I'm guessing, but at the same time, it's good to see it and have an idea of if there's one that stands out over another. So yeah, those are the three first reads that Lisa and I have for you this meeting. These two are Troy's, I believe.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about those two? All right, so these are two that the goal to innovative instruction, Jamie chairs, had asked me to look at those policies and see where wording that has more to do with innovative instruction could be added. And a couple of them I couldn't see, but these two, I felt like there was a spot where you could add a phrase or a sentence or alter a sentence. And on the first one, 6142, what I did is I kept all the words there and I added additional words in green, proposing that the words in red would be eliminated. So I just proposed in that second sentence that, although learning experiences offered students vary according to their individual needs and interests, I proposed, rather than abilities. Just to kind of, because we already talk about abilities in a different policy. And I thought it would be, we're really wanting to personalize the instruction to the kids. And to put the word interest, I felt like is a good change. And then the second paragraph or the next sentence after that, an atmosphere, it said, it was very awkward. Let me read it to you what it actually said. I'm going to read the words without any highlight and the red words. This is what it said. An atmosphere fostering healthy growth shall prevail, recognizing in which ability encouraging excellence and providing a model of productive life of life as a model to emulate. So I read that like 10 times and I'm like, I'm not quite sure what that means. So how about this? An atmosphere fostering productive personal growth shall prevail, ensuring each learner is empowered through innovative teaching practices that equip them with skills and motivation to support a lifetime of learning. I thought that was a clearer way to say what was, I don't know what's trying to be said, but that says something to me, the green part. So that's what I propose on that one. And then the other one, it's 6,000. It's really just a whole list, because it says in the first paragraph, last sentence, the district's program will be reflected in school and district improvement plans and will include, but not be limited to, the following. And it's a whole list, right? And it talks about self-evaluation, talks about data-driven, and then action planning. And I felt that in the list of action planning, we could simply add innovative instructional strategies and assessment practices that empower each student. And there's no and there because I was following the format, the first paragraph, and they didn't put an and there. Or did they? Actually, district progress toward development and implementation. That's like one thing though. But anyway, if you want to put an and there, it's fine with me. I think it should be assessment practices. That you take off the S on assessment. Right, but I thought it fit there, if we want to put that phrasing in.
Yeah, I think this is great, to have this add in and kind of where your vision for these policies, how we can integrate innovation and really highlight goal two. And then I think if my memory serves, we were gonna have Lisa and Chet also look at this because there was weird things in here.
Well,
too.
I was gonna say, I would rather we don't vote on these tonight because I know 6,000 is definitely on our list of things to look at because the legislative and legal references are outdated and there's a variety of things that aren't in play there. So we're gonna have to look at 6,000 on a larger scale. And I want to say 6142 was also on the list of things that I had down for needing other action.
Does CABE have an updated version of those?
Yes.
And then we could try to add Troy's wording into CABE's
Yes,
updated
which is what
version.
we would be looking to do
And-
once Lisa and I sit down and can go through and pull out. There's certain ones we have marked that stand out as, hey, this needs to be changed for legal purposes and other things as well. And so this is on that list of things that we need to sit down and go through.
Okay, and then have we gotten our most recent quarterly audit?
Those are what I just presented.
That's all that was in them, was those three in the recent
There were
quarterly?
two, well, there were the two, I didn't put them all in. The two
Okay.
mandated report, the ones are in there as the first read and the other one that I thought applied to us perhaps.
Okay,
There was one regarding library materials. That was simply a possible, they
okay,
didn't even have any other recommended, I don't believe.
Okay.
If I recall
all right,
correctly, so.
perfect, thanks. All right, so we're not gonna vote on these tonight. We're gonna revisit on those. Thank you for putting that language in, Troy. Appreciate that. All right, so do we have any public comment this evening? All right, not seeing any, we're going to propose to go to executive session. John and Madison, you guys can take off because once we come out of executive session, we're just gonna do a vote and adjourn the meeting. And you can't be in executive session, so. Unless you want to hang out in the hallway till we're done and then come back in for.
Okay, don't forget your candy bar.
Thank you,
I-
see you later.
I'd like to make a motion that we move to that we move to executive session.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same.
Thank you, those of you online. I will put you in the waiting room if you wish to wait.
Here, drop off where you can get in there.
Put Allison in the waiting room.
And then recording is stopped? Live streaming is stopped.
Hold on. Sure of that.